So you're ready to buy a home. Well, I've put together a short list for you to consider. It's going to make the whole process a lot easier for you. First off, let's increase that savings. The more money you have saved up, the easier it's going to be for you. This is going to help you figure out what your down payment's going to be. Are you going to be putting 5%, 10%, 20% down? Next, let's pay down your credit card debt. Lenders take a long, hard look at your debt to income ratio. So if you're carrying a lot of debt on that credit cards, it's going to really affect your ability to get a mortgage. It's also going to affect what your interest rate is going to be. Speaking of lenders, let's talk to one. Let's get you a pre-approval letter. In the process of them getting that pre-approval letter, they're going to pull your credit. They're going to find out if you're in the 5s, 6s, 7s. Do we need to fix your credit, or can we work with what we have? Are you going to have to go FHA, conventional? These are all questions the lender is going to be able to ask when they pull your credit and get you that pre-approval letter. It's also going to figure out what your buying power is. They're going to give you that maximum amount you can purchase. Now that doesn't mean you should buy the maximum you can afford, because it doesn't mean you can necessarily afford it. It just means you can get that mortgage. So they're saying you can get a $600,000 house. Let's figure out what those monthly payments are. Is it going to affect your lifestyle? Are you going to have to give up things you don't want to give up? Second vacation, a vacation, going to the gym. Are you going to have to eat ramen noodles 2 nights a week? So just because you're approved for that $600,000, $700,000 house, maybe we're going to look at a $550,000 or a $650,000. Keep in mind your closing costs. A lot of people forget about the closing costs. You're all worried about, what's my monthly payment going to be? What's my interest rate? How much my down payment? But when you show up to that closing table, you still have to pay the attorney and you still have to pay the lender for giving you the loan. And that can be $5,000, $6,000, maybe as much as $10,000 in closing costs. Let's talk to the lender, figure out what your closing costs are going to be. Next, do you have a home to sell? If you're not a first-time home buyer, you're probably living in the house you're going to be selling. So let's get that house ready to sell. Let's declutter it. Let's make all the minor repairs you need to make. Fresh coat of paint goes a long way as well. Inside and out if possible. Next, let's line up an attorney. Especially if you're selling a home, it'd be nice to be able to use the same attorney for the sale of your house plus the purchase of your house. Nothing worse than having to deal with 2 attorneys because we didn't have one lined up. So you've got one on the sale of your house and another one on the purchase of the house you're buying. Next, what towns do you want to live in? Let's figure that out now before you do anything else. Do you want to be north of the city, south of the city? Do you want to be living in the city? If you're north of the city in the suburbs, what's your commute going to be? Don't be afraid to take a dry run. Let's pick that town, get up early in the morning, drive out, drive into work. Is it a 30-minute drive, 40-minute drive, hour and a half? Is it something you're comfortable with or not comfortable with? It might determine where you end up living. Next, finally, and probably for me the most important, prepare for that last check you're going to write. I showed up to the closing. I had to write a check for 15% of the purchase price of the house. Me and my wife sat there and there were some tears in the eyes writing a check that big. We weren't ready for it. We knew we were going to be doing it, but we weren't ready for it. We were fine the next day, but right there at the table, it was difficult. So don't let this process overwhelm you. In the end, you're getting the home you wanted to buy.